Drop these burdens today. Break the bad cycle. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by the challenges of life? As if you were carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, unable to take a deep breath and simply live. Sometimes it feels like with every step we take, we're moving further away from the lightness we so desperately seek. But what if I told you there's a way to lighten these burdens? A way to find peace amid chaos and turn these difficulties into strength. Today, I want to invite you to explore how you can leave behind what no longer serves you and start a new journey, lighter, freer, and with purpose. First topic, emotional burden. Relief. Imagine carrying a backpack full of stones every day. These stones represent the emotional challenges, regrets, sorrows, and disappointments we accumulate throughout life. Doesn't it sound exhausting? The truth is, many of us walk through life this way, carrying unnecessary weight without realizing we can simply put this backpack down. The question is, why do we continue to carry these burdens? Perhaps it's the fear of the unknown or the belief that somehow these stones are part of who we are. But what if, in reality, letting go of these weights could bring us closer to who we really are? Letting go of what ties us to the past doesn't mean forgetting or ignoring what happened. It means accepting, learning, and moving forward. This process of emotional detachment isn't immediate and requires courage and self-compassion. It's internal work that starts with small daily actions, practicing forgiveness both towards others and ourselves, cultivating gratitude for what we have and who we are, and above all, recognizing our intrinsic worth, independent of external circumstances. Resilience, the ability to recover in the face of adversity, is the key to living more lightly and with purpose. When we release the burdens that weigh us down, we make room for the new, for growth, and for a fuller, more meaningful life. So, what's in your backpack that you can leave behind today? Which stones are you ready to let go of to walk more lightly towards your purpose? The journey to inner peace begins with a decision to free yourself from what no longer serves you and embrace the lightness of being. Now that we've started to lighten the weight of the emotional burdens we carry, it's time to take another step towards a lighter, more meaningful life. But there's another, more subtle weight that often keeps us from moving forward freely. The constant comparison with others. How many times have we caught ourselves looking at someone else's life and wondering why we haven't yet achieved the same success, the same accomplishments, or even the same happiness that we see in others? It seems so natural, doesn't it? After all, we're surrounded by examples of seemingly perfect lives, especially on social media, where everything is carefully edited and filtered. But what if I told you that this constant comparison is a trap? It diverts us from our own path, prevents us from valuing what's unique in us, and makes us forget that each journey is different. Comparing yourself to others is like trying to measure the beauty of one flower by the fragrance of another. They are distinct, incomparable aspects, but both are valuable in their own way. Instead of getting caught up in what others are doing, we need to learn to celebrate our own quirks. Each of us has a unique story, full of challenges, imperfections, victories, and lessons. And it's this story that shapes who we are. Accepting our imperfections, embracing our challenges, and valuing every little achievement is what truly makes us grow. After all, what would our journey be if it were the same as everyone else's? The beauty of life lies precisely in the differences, in the paths we choose, in the curves we face, and in the moments that, though imperfect, transform us. So, instead of comparing yourself, how about valuing every step of your own journey? Each of us has a purpose, a time, and a way of living. And it's in this authenticity that we find our true strength and inner peace. So next time you're tempted to compare yourself, remember, the only comparison that really matters is with who you were yesterday. Growing and evolving doesn't mean being better than others, but being the best version of yourself. After learning to value our own journey and letting go of comparisons with others, a crucial question arises. How do we protect this inner peace we're building? especially when faced with conflicting relationships that test our serenity. We've all been in situations where someone we trusted hurt us, whether through harsh words, unexpected actions, or even a breach of trust. These moments leave deep marks. It's natural to feel shaken, but it's essential to understand that our inner peace is precious and deserves to be protected at all costs. Imagine your inner peace as a well-kept garden. You wouldn't allow weeds or pests to invade this space, would you? Similarly, we need to be careful about who we allow into our inner circle, especially when these people have the power to hurt us. But protecting our peace doesn't mean building impenetrable walls or avoiding all relationships. It's about setting clear and firm boundaries. When someone breaks our trust, it's a sign that we need to reevaluate this relationship and decide to what extent it's worth keeping this person in our lives. Sometimes the wisest decision is to distance yourself and move forward, keeping your dignity intact. Protecting yourself is not weakness, it's an act of self-love. It's recognizing that although we can't control others' actions, we have full control over how we respond to them. By choosing to avoid unnecessary involvement with those who have already caused us pain, we're affirming our dignity and prioritizing our emotional well-being. Therefore, when you find yourself in a relationship that puts your inner peace at risk, ask yourself, does this person deserve access to my most sacred space? If the answer is no, know that it's perfectly acceptable to distance yourself without guilt or regret. After all, moving forward with dignity is the greatest proof of strength and respect we can give ourselves. After discussing the importance of protecting our inner peace, even amid difficult relationships, a question also deserves our attention. Are we aligned with our true life purpose? Sometimes we pursue goals and ambitions that over time lose meaning or no longer reflect who we really are. But how do we deal with that? The world around us is always pushing us to achieve more, to seek the next big goal, to compete. But in the midst of this race, we may forget what really matters. Perhaps a few years ago, a specific goal made sense, motivated us, and gave meaning to our journey. However, as we grow and evolve, our priorities change, and what once seemed essential may now seem empty or out of sync with our true essence. This is where the importance of deep and honest reflection comes in. We need to ask ourselves, do the ambitions we're pursuing today still reflect our life purpose? Do they make us feel fulfilled, or are we simply following a path out of inertia, external pressure, or fear of disappointing others? Recognizing that a goal no longer makes sense to us is an act of courage and wisdom. However, it's equally important to make these changes discreetly. This doesn't mean hiding what we feel, but rather preserving the integrity of our personal journey. By making quiet and respectful adjustments to our path, we maintain focus on what really matters, our personal growth, and the pursuit of a life that is truly meaningful. So if you find yourself with an ambition that no longer resonates with who you are today, don't be afraid to leave it behind. Remember that our life is a continuous process of discovery and realignment, and sometimes abandoning what no longer serves us is the first step to making room for what will truly take us where we want to go. Preserving the integrity of our journey means being true to ourselves, even if it means taking a different path than we initially imagined. After reflecting on the alignment of our ambitions with our life purpose, we also need to look at how we communicate and interact with others. A crucial aspect of maintaining healthy and authentic relationships is avoiding the spread of negative opinions. Whether they're about people, situations, or even ourselves, it's easy to fall into the trap of negative conversations and gossip. Sometimes we don't even realize we're getting involved in these discussions, but they have a profound impact not only on the people we talk about, but also on the quality of our own relationships. Every word spoken carries weight, and when we spread negativity, we are contributing to an environment of distrust and disrespect. Imagine an environment where people choose empathy over judgment, understanding over criticism, a place where instead of gossiping, people support and help each other grow. This kind of environment not only strengthens relationships, but also builds a solid foundation of trust and mutual respect. When we choose not to spread negative opinions, we're making a conscious choice for more genuine and healthy relationships. Moreover, by avoiding spreading negativity, we become more aware of the power of our words and the energy we bring to any interaction. Every conversation is an opportunity to promote kindness and empathy, to be a positive force in someone's life. And by choosing this path, we not only protect the integrity of others, but also cultivate an internal space of peace and harmony. So next time the opportunity arises to engage in a negative conversation, ask yourself, does this opinion really add value, or is it just perpetuating the cycle of judgment and misunderstanding? Choosing silence or a word of encouragement can be the first step to transforming not only our relationships, but also the environment around us. After all, building a more respectful and empathetic world begins with the small choices we make every day. As we cultivate a life more aligned with our values and prioritize inner peace, another essential question arises: how to preserve our personal privacy, especially after the end of relationships. In times when everything seems to be shared and exposed, maintaining discretion becomes an act of wisdom and respect, both for ourselves and for others. The end of a relationship, whether it's romantic, a friendship, or professional, is always a delicate moment. Emotionally, we're vulnerable, and the temptation to share intimate details can be great, whether out of a need to vent or to seek support. However, it's crucial to remember that unnecessary exposure can have lasting consequences, both for our own integrity and for that of the other person involved. Maintaining discretion doesn't mean suppressing feelings or ignoring pain, but rather choosing carefully what and with whom to share. The world doesn't need to know every detail of our private life. Preserving these aspects not only protects us from judgment and misunderstanding, but also demonstrates maturity and respect for all parties involved. When we hold back, we give ourselves the necessary space to heal and reflect. This protection of our privacy is in fact a form of self-care. It allows us to process what happened in a calm and thoughtful manner, without the external pressure that often only amplifies the pain. Moreover, by avoiding the exposure of intimate details, we're also protecting the other person. Regardless of what happened, everyone deserves to have their privacy respected. Dignity and mutual respect are values that should be maintained even after the end of any relationship. Therefore, when facing the end of a relationship, remember, less is more. Choose wisely what to share and with whom. Protect your integrity and honor the story you lived, regardless of how it ended. Preserving personal privacy is a powerful way to maintain your dignity and move forward with serenity and respect. In an increasingly connected world, social media has become a constant presence in our lives. It has the power to connect us with people around the world, but it can also, without us realizing it, negatively impact our self-esteem and well-being. That's why it's essential to reflect on the conscious consumption of content on social media. How many times have you caught yourself scrolling through your timeline without even noticing the time passing? And how many times after this scrolling session did you feel dissatisfied or even inferior by comparing your life to the lives of the people you follow? This is a common effect of social media. Being inundated with images and stories of seemingly perfect lives, we start to question our own reality. But what if instead of being mere passive consumers, we started using these platforms more consciously and intentionally? What would change if we focused on true connections and content that really adds value to our lives? Conscious consumption on social media begins with the choice of what to follow and the understanding that not everything shared reflects reality. Often what we see is just a small, carefully edited part of people's lives. Therefore, it's essential to curate the content we allow into our daily lives. Following profiles that inspire, educate, and make us feel good about who we are can transform how we see ourselves and the world. Additionally, it's important to set clear limits on the time we spend online. Social media can be a powerful tool, but like any tool, its use should be moderate and balanced. Being more present in the real world, seeking genuine experiences, and strengthening relationships off-screen are practices that help us maintain a healthy and balanced perspective. Finally, remember that you have control over what you consume and how it affects your life. By using social media consciously, you're choosing to prioritize what really matters, protecting your well-being, and building a digital environment that reflects your values and purpose. Thus, instead of letting social media shape your self-image, you can use it as a tool to grow, inspire, and connect authentically. As we seek a more conscious and value-aligned life, a question many of us face arises: the dependence on others' opinions. How many times have we hesitated to make a decision or follow a path out of fear of what others might think? This incessant quest for external validation can trap us, keeping us from the authentic life we want to live. Freeing yourself from this dependence isn't easy, but it's essential to achieving a truly meaningful life. From an early age, we're taught to seek approval, whether from parents, teachers, friends, or society at large. It's natural to want to be accepted and respected, but when this need becomes the driver of our decisions, we start to lose sight of who we really are and what we really want. True freedom begins when we learn to make decisions based on our own values and desires, not on others' expectations. This doesn't mean completely ignoring others' opinions, but rather prioritizing what's most important to us. After all, we're the ones who live with the consequences of our choices, not those who judge us. Living according to your own values takes courage, especially when your choices don't align with what's considered normal or expected. But it's precisely in this courage that we find authenticity and meaning in our lives. When we stop seeking external validation, we create space for a deeper connection with ourselves, allowing our most genuine desires to guide our path. And as we free ourselves from others' opinions, we begin to see the world differently. We realize that external approval is fleeting, and true satisfaction comes from being at peace with our choices. Living authentically is an act of self-compassion and respect for who we are. So, the next time you feel pressured to make a decision based on what others might think, stop and reflect. Does this choice reflect who you really are? If the answer is yes, move forward with confidence. And if the answer is no, it may be time to reassess what truly matters to you. The freedom to be who we are is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. And that freedom begins when we stop seeking in others the validation that we can only find within ourselves. Now that we've explored the importance of living according to our own values, it's crucial to address a common obstacle that often hinders this progress: perfectionism. While the pursuit of excellence can motivate us to do our best, perfectionism, when taken to the extreme, becomes a silent enemy that traps us in an endless cycle of self-criticism and dissatisfaction. Perfectionism creates the illusion that we must be flawless in everything we do, that every detail must be absolutely perfect before we take any step forward. But this incessant pursuit of perfection can actually paralyze us. We become so focused on avoiding mistakes that we end up missing opportunities for growth, learning, and even happiness. But here's the truth: mistakes and imperfections are a natural part of the learning and growth journey. They not only teach us valuable lessons, but also remind us that we're human, and being human means being imperfect. It's through our stumbles that we discover new ways of doing things, develop resilience, and eventually achieve the progress we so desire. Accepting our imperfections isn't the same as being complacent or giving up on improvement. On the contrary, it's recognizing that the path to growth is made up of attempts, mistakes, and adjustments. When we allow ourselves to err, we give ourselves the freedom to experiment, create, and evolve. Furthermore, it's important to remember that perfection is a subjective concept. What seems perfect to one person may not be to another. Therefore, instead of chasing an unattainable ideal, we should focus on doing the best we can with what we have at the moment. And above all, be kind to ourselves throughout this process. So, if you find yourself caught in the traps of perfectionism, ask yourself, what am I really trying to achieve? And more importantly, how can I free myself from this need for perfection to finally embrace real progress? Remember, true excellence isn't about never making mistakes, but about continuing to move forward despite imperfections. After all, it's in our imperfections that we find the beauty of our journey. After discussing the impact of perfectionism on our journey, it's important to reflect on another aspect that often prevents us from living fully and authentically: unrealistic expectations. All of us, at some point, have encountered goals that at first seem inspiring, but in practice prove to be exaggerated and unattainable. These expectations often don't arise from our own desires, but from external influences, whether social, cultural, or familial. Society bombards us with standards of success, beauty, and happiness, and we end up, without realizing it, incorporating these expectations as if they were our own. But do they really reflect our essence? Do these goals make us feel fulfilled? Or do they only increase pressure and frustration? Here's the key: honest self-assessment. We need to ask ourselves sincerely if the expectations we set for ourselves are truly achievable, and if they align with who we really are. Often, upon reflection, we realize that we're trying to achieve goals that don't belong to us, or that are simply unrealistic. Abandoning exaggerated expectations isn't the same as giving up on our dreams. On the contrary, it's a way to recalibrate our goals so that they are in harmony with our capabilities, resources, and above all, with our true essence. When we do this, we not only free ourselves from the pressure of having to be or do the impossible, but also allow ourselves to live more lightly, realistically, and satisfyingly. When reviewing your expectations, think about what really matters to you. What are the values and desires that, when met, bring true peace and contentment? By focusing on these questions, you'll be building a more authentic life where your goals reflect who you really are, not what others expect you to be. Therefore, take a pause and re-evaluate your expectations. Free yourself from the burden of unattainable goals and embrace a life more aligned with your essence. This change will not only bring more balance and satisfaction, but will also create space for you to get closer and closer to your true nature, living according to what is truly important to you. In our quest for a more aligned and meaningful life, we frequently encounter small daily challenges that test our patience and serenity. These small frustrations, though seemingly insignificant, can accumulate and affect our well-being in unexpected ways. But what if we adopted a new perspective to deal with them? Stoic philosophy teaches us to face these small annoyances with an attitude of acceptance and resilience. Instead of allowing these frustrations to undermine our day, we can learn to see them as opportunities to practice patience and self-control. After all, we can't control what happens around us, but we can choose how we react to these situations. Think about how many times you've been irritated by something trivial, an interminable traffic jam, a long line, or even a poorly timed word. These moments, as small as they are, have the potential to ruin our mood and distract us from what really matters. But when we stop to analyze the real importance of these situations, we realize that many of them don't deserve the weight we give them. Adopting a Stoic perspective means accepting that life is full of surprises and setbacks, and that fighting against these small frustrations only increases our anguish. Instead, we can choose to take a deep breath, accept the moment as it is, and move forward with lightness. This doesn't mean ignoring problems, but rather dealing with them in a more balanced and conscious way. Imagine if, instead of letting these small frustrations get us down, we used them as daily exercises in emotional strengthening. Each time we manage to overcome a small irritation with tranquility, we are actually cultivating a more resilient mindset, better prepared to face greater challenges. So next time you encounter a daily frustration, ask yourself, does this really deserve my energy? By choosing a lighter and more positive response, you'll not only be preserving your inner peace, but also training your mind to deal with life's ups and downs with more serenity and strength. Remember, managing small frustrations isn't about avoiding them, but about learning to face them in a way that strengthens rather than weakens your spirit. By adopting this attitude, you'll be taking a big step towards a more balanced and fulfilling life. As you begin to let go of burdens that aren't yours to carry, you'll notice how life becomes lighter and more meaningful. It's a continuous journey where every small change makes a big difference. So remember, the power to transform your life is in your hands. If this video helped you reflect, leave your like and subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of self-knowledge and growth. Let's seek a fuller and more authentic life together. And don't forget, leave in the comments, "I choose to live lightly." I can't wait to see what you have to say. See you in the next video.